Joseph was born into a house already heavy with memory. His father, Jacob, had lived a life of wrestling, first with men, then with God, and by the time Joseph came into the world, love had become careful and costly. Joseph's mother, Rachel, was the one Jacob had waited for through years of labor and disappointment. When she finally bore a son, joy arrived mixed with fear, as if happiness knew it would not stay long. Rachel named the child Joseph, saying, "May the Lord add to me another son." In the name itself lived both gratitude and longing. Joseph grew among many brothers, sons of different mothers, raised in the open fields where flocks moved like slow clouds across the hills of Canaan. He was not the oldest, nor the strongest, nor the most practiced with blade or staff. What he had instead was attention. Jacob watched him more closely, spoke to him more gently, and eventually marked him with a garment that was more than clothing. The coat, long, richly made, unmistakable, set Joseph apart in a way a child cannot yet understand. Love, when displayed unevenly, becomes a seed of trouble. Joseph learned early how stories sounded when they were whispered behind his back. His brothers worked hard and were quick to anger. Joseph noticed their shortcuts, their rough dealings, and carried those observations home. He was young enough to think truth was always welcome. He did not yet know that truth, when poorly timed, can become a weapon. Then came the dreams. In sleep, Joseph saw images that clung to him through the day, sheaves of grain bowing to his sheaf, the sun and moon and 11 stars lowering themselves before him. He told these dreams with the same innocence he brought to everything else, not understanding that dreams of elevation are difficult to hear from a younger brother. Each telling deepened the quiet distance between him and the rest of the family. By the time Joseph reached the edge of boyhood, he was already standing alone inside a crowded house. The day Joseph was sent to find his brothers, the sky was clear and the road long. Jacob's voice was gentle when he gave the task, and Joseph went willingly, wearing the coat that marked him as favored and unguarded. He found them far from home, tending flocks near Dothan, and before his greeting reached them, their decision was already forming. Resentment, once gathered, seeks release. Some spoke of killing him. Others hesitated, not out of love, but out of fear of blood. In the end, they chose a cruelty that allowed them to feel innocent. They stripped Joseph of his coat and lowered him into an empty cistern, its stone walls cold and echoing. From below, Joseph heard their voices above him, familiar voices, now distant, and understood for the first time that belonging could be withdrawn. When a caravan passed on its way to Egypt, profit replaced rage. Joseph was pulled from the pit not into freedom, but into transaction. Silver changed hands. The brothers watched him disappear down the road, smaller with every step, until he was no longer their problem. Joseph did not cry out once he realized no one was coming back. Fear settled into him quietly. The world he had known ended there, between dust and hoofbeats. Ahead waited a land he had never seen, a language he did not speak, and a future unimagined by his dreams. Egypt rose from the horizon like a promise and a threat. Joseph entered it as property, sold into the household of Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh. There were rules here, strict and clear, and Joseph learned them quickly. He worked with care, listening more than speaking, observing the rhythms of a foreign life. Something followed Joseph even into captivity. Where he focused his effort, order grew. Where he was trusted with responsibility, success followed. Potiphar noticed and placed Joseph over his household, granting him authority unusual for a servant. Prosperity filled the house, and Joseph became a quiet center of it. But success invites attention of another kind. Potiphar's wife watched Joseph and desired him. Her advances were direct, her persistence relentless. Joseph refused, not with arrogance, but with conviction. To betray trust, he believed, was a greater prison than any cell. Rejection turned desire into accusation. Joseph was seized, his words dismissed, His integrity weighed against power and found wanting. Without trial or defense, he was cast into prison, a place for the king's offenders. Once again, faithfulness had led him not upward but down. Prison was not the pit, but it shared the same lessons. Joseph learned patience the way others learn trades, through repetition and quiet endurance. Even here, responsibility found him. The keeper of the prison entrusted Joseph with oversight, and order emerged amid confinement. Among the prisoners were two men once close to Pharaoh, his cupbearer and his baker. Each carried a dream that troubled his sleep, and when Joseph noticed their distress, he listened. Dreams, he told them, belonged to God, but interpretation could be given. Joseph spoke honestly. One dream promised restoration, the other foretold death. Both came true. Before the cupbearer was released, Joseph asked one thing, that he be remembered. When freedom came for the cupbearer, memory did not. Years passed. Hope dulled, then steadied into something quieter. Joseph waited, not knowing what he waited for, only that the dreams of his youth had not yet found their meaning. Pharaoh dreamed, and Egypt trembled. Cows rose from the Nile, healthy and strong, only to be devoured by others, thin and relentless. Grain sprouted full, then was consumed by blight. No one could explain the visions. In fear and frustration, the cupbearer remembered the Hebrew in prison. Joseph was brought, washed, and stood before Pharaoh. He did not claim power for himself. Interpretation, he said, belonged to God. The dreams were one. 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of famine. Wisdom demanded preparation. Pharaoh listened. In Joseph's clarity, he heard not only explanation, but leadership. Authority passed to Joseph in a single day. He was given a new name, new garments, and power second only to Pharaoh himself. The prisoner became governor. The dreamer became a steward of nations. Joseph organized storage during the years of plenty, filling granaries across the land. When famine came, Egypt was ready. People from distant regions came to buy grain. Among them men Joseph recognized the moment they bowed before him. Joseph's brothers did not recognize him. Time, power, and language hid his identity. But Joseph knew them, and memory returned with sharp clarity. The dreams of his youth unfolded before him, not as triumph, but as test. He spoke harshly, accused them, imprisoned one, demanded the youngest be brought. It was not revenge he sought, but truth. Had time changed them? Had guilt softened their hearts? When Benjamin stood before him, Joseph's restraint nearly broke. When Judah offered himself in place of the youngest, Joseph saw repentance where cruelty had once lived. He sent the others away and wept aloud, grief and relief breaking together. Joseph revealed himself not as judge, but as brother. Fear filled them, but Joseph spoke words shaped by long suffering. What they had intended for harm, God had used for good. Forgiveness, he showed them, was not denial of pain, but the decision not to pass it on. Jacob came to Egypt, old and cautious, and saw the son he thought lost standing alive before him. The family settled, protected during famine, preserved through Joseph's rise. Years later, Jacob died, blessing his sons, and the past closed its long arc. Joseph lived to see children born into peace, his life stretching far beyond the pit that once defined him. When his own end approached, he spoke not of Egypt, but of promise. God, he said, would one day bring their people home. Joseph died honored in a foreign land, his bones waiting for a future he would not see. His story remained, not of a dreamer who ruled, but of a man shaped by loss, patience, and trust. His destiny was never only power, it was preservation. And in that, Joseph's life continued to speak, that suffering does not cancel purpose, and that even the deepest pit may be part of the road to fulfillment.